Fandoms here, we share the love. Every topic you're dreaming of. Join the chat, let's fan away. This is Fandoms, come and stay.
You're listening to Fandoms. I'm your host, Brody Otway. Join me as I interview a guest about anything from Dane Cook to Bigfoot. Today on the show, we'll be talking to Dano Hamilton about cryptids. Welcome to the show, Dano.
Hey, what's up, Brody? Thank you so much for having me on, man.
Yeah, no problem. I've been looking to do this topic for a while, so I'm pumped that somebody finally reached out to do it. So for somebody who's not aware, what exactly is a cryptid?
Well, do you want the scientific meaning, or do you want what people are going to understand?
Maybe a quick rundown of what the scientific breakdown is, and then like the layman's terms of what we're going to talk about today.
Okay, cool. So, a cryptid is pretty much an animal whose existence hasn't been proven by scientific evidence, pretty much. But it's, you'll see it in folklore or eyewitness accounts, and then what you'll do is you'll often see it in the inclusion of the study of cryptozoology. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what a cryptid is. Now, examples of cryptids, the list is huge. There's websites out there that will list just tons of things as cryptids, but just for your average listener, Bigfoot, Dogman, Loch Ness monster, things like that. That's the Mothman, Jersey Devil. Those are cryptids.
What is the dogman? Is that like a werewolf kind of thing?
That's what I believe it is. It's similar to a werewolf. It's,
Okay.
pretty much like the body shape of a man. There's from what I understand, there's like 3 different species of dogmen, and that has usually you'll hear they have a head like a German Shepherd. A lot of people bring up the not Greek, but Egyptian god Anubis.
Yeah.
That's what people say. They see
That's kind of
sometimes the
funny
dogmen.
because I was listening to an audiobook series, and one of the characters' titles is the Dogman, and for like 90% of the first book, I was picturing like a human body with a dog head, like what you just explained, and then I realized like 90% way through the book that he's just a normal dude who's really good at tracking. And so I was like, I just, as soon as you said dog man, that just stuck out to me. So I was curious if it was like exactly what I pictured in this book when I was totally wrong. And it sounds like it pretty much is.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So with cryptozoology, is that basically just the study of cryptids?
Well, I mean, it's a cryptozoologist is a person who studies or researches hidden animals or cryptids, again, like Bigfoot, Loch Ness monster, the Yeti. These people, they'll investigate anecdotal evidence, folklore, and alleged physical proof just to try to see if they can bring out some type of truth and bring things one step closer to actually getting these things as recognized as an actual creature.
That's really interesting. So how did you first get into cryptids and cryptozoology?
Well, so I'm not a cryptozoologist, so I'm not boots on the ground. I'm a podcaster. But when I was 12 years old, I had a visual sighting of a Sasquatch. When I was 12, me, my dad, my little brother at the time was in the backseat of the car sleeping. But before that, I had seen the Patterson Gimlin film, and when I saw that, I was like, "Oh, that's absolutely awesome." And then I would go to the library at library time and during school and check a book out. It was the only book in the library, and I'd constantly check it out and just read the entire book, and mostly on Bigfoot because that's the one that really caught my attention. So that's how I got into it.
Is Bigfoot your favorite cryptid then?
It's one of them.
What are some of your others?
My absolute favorite cryptids are Bigfoot and the Kushtaka.
What's that?
Kushtaka is a southeastern Alaskan cryptid. It's a shapeshifter. People who see it describe it as half otter and half man. So it can shapeshift into a full person, or a variation of person and otter, or a large sea otter.
Huh. That is wild. Like that I want to believe in them so bad, but like between Bigfoot shows and like not having seen anything in my time like hiking and stuff like that, it's just so hard for me. What do you think about like the Bigfoot shows and stuff like that? Do you think they give cryptozoology a bad name, or do you enjoy them, or do you think it's like somewhere in between?
Well, I mean, when you had like Finding Bigfoot, that was like the big one that for like it pretty much set the community on fire when it came to these Bigfoot shows. That was with Matt Moneymaker and Bobo and Cliff and Renee.
What a name, Matt Moneymaker.
Yeah, that's his legit name though. And it's then you have, in my opinion, one of, if not the best Bigfoot show out there is Expedition Bigfoot. That's probably the best one out there. And the reason I say that is because they have so many cameras and they use so much technology out there. And that series has been on since like 2019. I was just out in Grand Rapids, Minnesota this weekend at the Minnesota Bigfoot Conference, and I got a chance to meet Dr. Mayer and Russell Accord from that show. And they've both, are really cool, down to earth people. Uh, and the reason I say that Expedition Bigfoot, in my opinion, is probably the best one out there. They season 3, episode 14, the season finale. Russell Accord is sitting across, up on one hilltop, and he's looking through a spotter scope, and he's got his phone that's attached to it, so you can look on your phone to see what you're seeing through the spotter scope. And he's looking across to another ridge, and he sees something, and I believe he even says look, that's a bear. Well, then this bear stands up. Now, seeing a bear stand up, it's not uncommon. Bears are known to stand up.
Yeah, I've seen one do it like literally 10 feet away from me.
Yeah. And they are known for a very small distance, are known to walk on their hind legs. This thing stood up and then proceeded to walk off like a man.
Hmm.
And to me, it's some of the just the best footage I've seen. You have the Patterson Gimlin film where the infamous or the famous Patty, she walks away while Roger Patterson's trying to film her. Then you have Scott Carpenter. Scott Carpenter has amazing film out there. So, there's a lot of people, they say, well, they're not real. They're not real. They're not real. Those are people who are closed minded to the fact that, and the possibility that there is potentially something that's living in the forests, in the mountain ranges, not only here in the United States, but up in Canada as well, over in Australia, over in Asia. I mean, there are stories and folklore of these ape men or monkey men or man apes or whatever you want to call them, and they're all over the world.
Yeah, why do you think we haven't found any like more solid evidence, like a full corpse or like any kind of like actual remains?
Okay, so let me ask you this question. So have you ever seen a mountain lion?
Yes.
Okay, so they exist. Have you ever seen the corpse out in the woods? Have you ever seen a corpse or skeletal remains of a mountain lion?
Not a mountain lion specifically, like bears, wolves, stuff like that. But no, not a mountain lion.
Yeah. So you have animals that tend to go, and I believe this is what especially with cats, they'll go off to an area when they know their end is near, and they'll live it out. They'll lay down and they'll pass. I think Bigfoot, they're not stupid. They're highly intelligent. Some people say there's more to them than just the whole flesh and blood. I tend to be on the camp of flesh and blood. But
Yeah, definitely me too.
I think they're just like us. They one, they do have a language. Two, I mean, I wish that I could play you some audio that I have. It's absolutely amazing. But I think that they tend to their dead like we do, or if it's maybe a solitary creature and it's away from its family unit or clan or pack or troop or whatever you want to call it, it goes off to an area where it knows it's not going to be found and it dies.
Yeah, I guess. Like I've worked at like a mining camp and stuff for a while, and I see like how big and expansive it is and how much like land it digs up. And
Hmm.
like some of them got shut down for archaeological digs and stuff like that because like old Native American stuff was found. And so it's like I feel like somehow with the amount of land we've turned up, we would have found like some kind of remains by now. Like I'm so skeptical on that sense. And like there's
Hmm.
been Bigfoot shows for so long, and all these Bigfoot shows, and they haven't found any real, like, we haven't gotten anything really conclusive or clear on camera. Why do you think that is?
You mean why do we not have like amazing video or film of one?
Because I mean, yeah, getting film in the forest is definitely hard. Like to anybody who's like, well, like, oh, it should be simple. It go into like thick brush and try and film you and your buddies walking. You're gonna lose each other tons. You're not gonna have a great footage from it.
Right. Well, I just told you in your guest, I mean your audience of Expedition Bigfoot season 3, episode 14, the season finale. That's amazing footage. You cannot, in my opinion, you can't dispute it. Again, the Patterson Gimlin film 1967, up I believe Willow Creek, Bluff Creek area.
Didn't the Patterson Gimlin guys go back and forth on whether it was even real or not?
Not the Patterson Gimlin film. Not Roger Patterson or Bobby Gimlin. No, they didn't go back and forth on it. It's there's people who have said, "Well, I've analyzed it and I've seen a zipper, or I've seen this, or I've seen that."
Bullshit.
Oh no, they say they do.
Yeah, but like they definitely didn't, because like I've watched that footage, and that is the only thing I like. That's the only thing that keeps me agnostic about Bigfoot, is like things like that. Is like that is some great footage. The only thing I find sketchy about it is the claim that they went out looking for Bigfoot footage and just so happened to have like this camera and stuff on them
Oh
for
no,
other
no.
reasons. And I've heard that, like, I don't know. I have no idea what's true and what's just people trying to debunk.
Well, no, they did. Roger Patterson did, in fact, want to get footage of these things because it was reported by someone he knew who was up in that area that was working on. I don't know if it was a log. I think it was a logging crew. Like, hey, we found these giant footprints all around our work area, and he actually saw these. He actually saw these footprints. And then he got a hold of Bob Gimlin because Bob Gimlin was a very respected, very, well-known tracker. And, he had horses and that's how they got up in the area was, they drove a truck and, had 3 horses loaded up on the truck and then they unloaded them. And for a few days, they were out and about, sometimes traveling 20 miles a day on horseback, looking for this thing in the area. And that's they come around this bend in the creek and boom, there it was. And at one time Roger Patterson actually fell running towards this to this creature trying to film it, and at one time actually ran out of film and had Bob Gimlin get him some more film out of his saddlebag so he could reload the camera and try to catch more film. So it's again, jot down Scott Carpenter, and that's another piece of film. Check out Scott Carpenter. Scott, we lost Scott Carpenter. I would say a year ago or so, and maybe a couple of years ago, and he has some very, very, very credible video that's out there. It's just you have a lot of guys that are out there. Now, why don't your average person that has these encounters catch video or pictures of these things? I don't have any video pictures of what I saw. I don't have any of it.
Right? And like it takes time to get your phone out and like get your lock screen and your camera up. Like my kids do stuff all the time where I'm like, "Oh, I want to get a video of this." By the time I get it out, it's over and done with, and it's like, "Okay, well, I'm not getting that video now."
Yeah. Well, back when I had my sighting, I was 12 years old. It was 1984. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have, you just didn't carry a camera in your back pocket. My dad had a camera, but not on that time because again, you're seeing something that doesn't supposed it's not supposed to be there. It's not supposed to exist. And I think a lot of people, and I've had a couple people who have seen them. Of course, I do a podcast, and on my podcast is of people's real world eyewitness, accounts of what they saw. And a lot of them will tell you, I was just doing my thing and all of a sudden there it was. I had my phone in my hand. It didn't even dawn on me to bring my phone up and start recording because you're so in that moment that you can't. I guess your mind doesn't let you function normally because you're seeing something that you shouldn't be seeing.
Yeah, I'm just checking out as well the Scott Carpenter 2010 footage. At first, that definitely looks more like monkey fur than it does bear or anything, but then the second thing he zooms in and pans on, the way it's lengthwise, that screams more bear to me. So I'm not too sure about that video I just watched, but I'll definitely check out more of his stuff when I'm not in the middle of a podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Trust me, he was a very well respected researcher in this community, and when he passed away, that was a huge loss. We just lost Dr. Jeff Meldrum, gigantic loss to this community. So a lot of the researchers that we have that are really bringing things in to this community for us to watch, to look at, to listen to. They're getting up there in age, and that's why we have a lot of younger guys that are going out. Scott Carpenter's son, he's going out. I think he's going to South America. Oh no, he's going. Yeah, he's going to Panama. Actually, he's not, he's probably already there. But you got guys like Harley Owens who goes out pretty much every week, and he actually researches in one of Scott Carpenter's old stomping grounds. And then you have a bunch of other investigators. You've got Abe Del Rio up here in Minnesota who has the Minnesota Bigfoot research team, and he goes out in areas, up north, up in northern Minnesota, and he's had some amazing encounters. From what I understand, I haven't had him on my show yet. Again, he's one of the people that I met. He also puts on the Minnesota Bigfoot conference, and just a lot of and he had a booth there and. Looking at the things that he's discovered, samples of footprints, tracks, hair samples, things like that. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
That's wild. So, have you covered any of the Canadian cryptids like Ogopogo or a Wendigo?
A Wendigo? Well, Wendigo isn't strictly Canadian. Wendigo is an Ojibwe folklore, and yeah, I have covered a Wendigo. I had actually a buddy of mine who was up at the conference with me. He saw one. He believes he saw one. I want to say probably about 20 minutes from my house.
That's wild.
Yeah, where I'm currently sitting now. Ogopogo, again, people who don't know who Ogopogo is, that's like the Canadian version of the Loch Ness Monster. We have Champ here in the United States, Lake Champlain, and we have a few other water cryptids.
Oh, you guys got a Nessie too?
Oh yeah, there's a couple of them. I think there's one in Lake Michigan that people talk about. That could be Ogopogo. Because Lake Michigan goes up, is bordered by Canada as well. So, but yeah, we have Champ and Lake Champlain, and I think there's a couple of other ones that are escaping my mind right now. But yeah, I've done a live broadcast, a live stream on my YouTube channel where we've covered water cryptids, and I didn't cover like Loch Ness Monster, Ogopogo, or Champ for the simple reason that those are very well known water cryptids.
Mhm.
And when I do a live stream and I do a specific cryptid or a group of cryptids, I want to stick to kind of the lesser known ones to bring them into the forefront so people know there's more than just Bigfoot. There's more than just Dogman or Loch Ness Monster, Ogopogo, the Mothman. There's other things out there. So I cover things like Batsquatch and I don't know. There's a couple other just really weird ones.
What exactly is bat squatch? Is it like
It's exactly what it sounds
bat
like.
ape?
A Bigfoot with bat wings. I mean, that's what people are kind of exactly. Sheep squatch. Yep, covered that one too. Again, some of these may sound like a little far fetched, and I agree. Some of them do. I don't know what the credibility is of I don't know, it could be like a game of telephone when someone says they saw something, it turns into something else. But, I don't try to discredit any of my guests that come on the show because I am not in their shoes. I wasn't present at their encounter. And I know my encounters sound pretty out there at times. So I know, what they're feeling when if someone would say, "Oh, well, you're full of it. You're a liar. You're making something up for attention." Trust me, there's very, 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 very few people in this community that want that kind of attention when they see something that shouldn't be there.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you gotta respect people coming out and like telling their truth. Like, you don't sit there and tell a victim of something that didn't happen. Like, not saying that they're a victim necessarily, but their experience, whether positive or negative, like, they seen something, and you can't prove what it was, and they're using their best judgment. So I mean, even if they're wrong, like, it's their story to tell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so did you mind giving me maybe a quickie version of one of your favorite lesser known stories, maybe?
My personal ones, or one that I've heard.
You could go either or. You could tell a couple of your personal stories, or maybe a quick version of something you've covered on your show.
Sure. Well, I'll go ahead and I'll kind of give you both. So when I was about 7 years old, now when I was seven, I had no clue what a Bigfoot was. No knowledge of it at all. It wasn't until I was about 10 or 11 when I saw the Patterson Gimlin film. My dad decided to take me out hunting, but we weren't hunting. He wanted me to learn what it was like to sit up in a deer stand in case I did want to go hunting with him. You know, trying to have like a father son bond. We went to this place just a little north of Aberdeen, Washington. We were living in Tacoma at the time. Went out there with my uncle to this area. We called it the hunting camp. They had hunted there previously because they put a deer stand up in this tree, and two game trails intersected at about 20-25 feet in front of this deer stand. Behind the deer stand, there was a clearing and then a wood line. From left to right, there wasn't really anything except for on the right hand side. There was like some thick brush and some trees. Directly in front, down the hill, there was a stream. So we get there, we set up camp. The next day, my dad takes me out to the deer stand, and it's kind of dark. It's at dawn time. And he tells, we get up in the deer stand, and I'm sitting on the left hand side of the deer stand, and he's looking through his knapsack, and he forgets something. He must have forgotten it at camp. That's what he said. So he goes, "Hey, I got to go back down to camp to get this thing. I can't remember what it was." And he goes, "You're gonna be okay. Just stay here in the tree. There's nothing out here that's gonna get you. You're good. You're gonna be perfectly safe."
Except Bigfoot.
Yeah. Well, again, don't know anything about that. So he climbs down from the deer stand. We're about 10 to 15 feet up, and as I watch my dad's flashlight disappear over this hill down the pathway, I'm here all by myself. Now, my dad told me I'm going to be safe, so I believed him. So I'm sitting up there, and the sound of the stream gets very hypnotic, gets very soothing, very calm, relaxing.
Oh yeah.
And I started dozing off, and I just get to the point where I feel like I'm falling asleep, and my body jerks. Like you jerk yourself, you jerk awake, right? And I'm like, whoa! So I kind of move my foot up, and I just on habit look, and I see that my boot string is untied. And I'm thinking, maybe my lace got caught on part of this deer stand. So I tied my bootlace up. A little while later, again, the hypnotic sound of the stream starts to put me to sleep, start nodding off. And just when you get to the part where you're falling asleep again, boom, my body jerks again. And I look down this time. It's just look straight down, and my boot is untied again. Now this time it's a little lighter. I can see more things clear, and I kind of shout out, "Dad, stop playing games. Stop messing with me. Stop trying to scare me." And I tie my bootlace up, and now I'm laser locked on my boots, my left boot. I'm looking at it and looking at it. It's a lot lighter out now. I can see colors. I can see shapes easily. I mean, I can clearly make things out now. And as I'm watching my boot, I hear this loud crack like this. I can't really describe it. It sounds like a large tree limb being ripped off of a tree. That's the best way I can describe it. Maybe two large rocks being smashed together. this happens off to my right. So I look over to my right and I'm looking and I can't see anything. But as I'm looking, I feel my boot jerk again. And I look down and my boot's untied for a third time. Now I stand straight up in this deer stand and I start screaming as loud as I can. I'm screaming, I'm scared. I'm yelling at my dad, stop scaring me. This isn't funny. I don't want to do this anymore. I hate this. I want to go home. I don't want to be here anymore, all that type of stuff. And I'm hoping my dad gets the point because I'm thinking it's my dad messing with me. So as I'm yelling, I see my dad's head start coming up over the crest of this hill, and he's at a dead sprint. He's got his rifle with him and everything, and he comes running up and he tells me to shut the hell up because if I want to see a deer or another animal, I shouldn't be screaming pretty much. And I just give it back to him. I'm like, you were doing this and you did this and you're trying to scare me and I don't want to do this anymore. And he finally realized that I'm not playing games. I'm not doing it just to be, you know, a spoiled brat and that I just want to go home because I'm bored. He can tell that I'm actually terrified. And he calms me down somewhat and asks me what happened. I explained to him what happened. So he goes, stay in the tree. So I'm like, okay, you don't have to tell me twice. So I'm hugging the tree as he walks behind where the deer stand is. And he's walking up in that clearing. And he's moving back and forth. And at one point, he kind of drops down to a knee and he touches the ground. He starts looking up and he stands up and he takes his rifle off of his shoulder and he kind of gets it at the ready. And if people don't know what that means, the ready, it's crossed across your chest. And as he starts moving forward a little bit, he stops because he's walking towards the tree line and he stops and then he puts the butt of the rifle into his shoulder and now he's scanning this tree line left and right, and he stops kind of at an angle towards the left and he's looking at it and he's got his rifle trained right in this general area and I'm watching this and I don't know what's going on. He starts slowly backing up and he gets up and he's like, get out of the tree right now. And I'm like, what? He goes, get out of the effing tree right now. So I climb out of the tree and he's standing like right there between me and the tree line. He's like, listen, you need to run as fast as you can all the way back to camp. Don't stop. Don't turn around. Run as fast as you can. I'll be right behind you. But dad, but he's like, I told you to run. Now move your ass. So I start running. I take, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 steps. I don't hear my dad coming in behind me. So I stop and I turn around and he's still standing there, but then he turns to come running behind me and he sees me stand there and he, you know, I told you to effing move and blah, 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 just yelling and screaming at me. So I start taking off running again. Now we play this little cat and mouse game like 2 or 3 more times before we're both at a dead run. We're running down into camp. As we go into camp, my uncle comes walking out of the tent and my dad runs right up to him. What the F are you doing up there trying to scare Daniel? Blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to get him into this and da 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 da. And my uncle's like, whoa, whoa, you need to calm down. He goes, I just got back into camp. He goes, it's going to be way too warm today. We're not going to see anything move. Everything's going to stay bedded down. So my dad goes, we need to leave right now. And my uncle tried to ask him, so he's like, listen, we just need to go right now. And so we pack everything up and we leave. Now, years later, I asked my dad. Now, when I asked him, I already knew what Bigfoot was. Knew what Bigfoot was, had a very pretty good working knowledge of Sasquatch, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call it. And I asked him, I go, Dad, remember that day of a deer camp when my boot got untied? He's like, yep. And I go, what did you see up there? I'm curious. What did you see up there? And he's like, buddy, it's not what I saw. It's like what I heard. And he goes, I heard this growl, this deep, deep growl. Now, my dad was raised in Alaska. He's seen bear. He's seen black bear. He's seen grizzly bear. He's seen mountain lions. He's heard and seen wolves. He said that this was nothing like any of those. Could not tell me what he thought was growling at him. And that's all he told me. Now, will I come out here on your show and tell you that it was a Bigfoot? I'm not going to go on any show, not even my show, and try to convince people that what was messing with me was a Bigfoot. But I will tell you this. My dad, okay, so we were about 10 to 15 feet, probably closer to the 15-foot mark up in this tree. My dad is only 5'7". My uncle was maybe 5'10", 5'11". There's no way either one of them could have reached up and untied my boot. Not once, not twice, but 3 times.
That's so wild. Like, my only thing in that situation is like, why would Bigfoot, one, how would he know how to untie your boot? Two, why would he be untying your boot? Why not just like grab you by the ankle and rip you down? Like, what do you think it wanted?
Well, I think it was like a younger, not like your big alpha males. I want to say it's probably like an older teenager, young adult. And I think they've just been mischievous. Not every encounter that people have with a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot, whatever you want to call it, they're not aggressive.
Mhm.
Majority of them are passive. They're either leaving the area, they want to get out of there, or they'll like throw pebbles or acorns or seed pods or pine cones. You know, they're being mischievous.
Mhm.
And I think that they were just being mischievous, and I don't think that they're completely dumb. I think they saw maybe a string and they thought, okay, let's pull that and see what happens. And they pulled the string. I mean, I wish I knew what their thought process was through the whole thing. But again, at that time, you got bears and mountain lions, cougars, pumas, whatever you want to call them. They're not going to untie a boot.
Definitely not. Yeah, no, they're good. At best, they're gonna rip your boot off and
Hmm.
make off with it.
Now that's one of my personal encounters, and I can tell
Oh
you
yeah.
about a pretty well documented encounter. It happened in 1976 in Whitetown, New York, on Abear Road. Now, what happened is two teenagers, about 16, 17 years old, they're friends. They go out driving, and they go out to this place called Abear Road, right outside of town. It's Whitehall, New York, and you can look it up. Look up the Abear Road incident, and I'm telling you, it's a fascinating encounter. And it doesn't happen just over a period of a day, it happens over a period of a week. So these two boys, they go out, teenagers, they go out on A Bear Road and they go out, they kind of do a U turn out on this road and they come back and they see something. Like, well, what the heck is that? Well, they see what they think is a monster, what they call a monster. And there's more detail as to what they were doing before they saw it and things like that. I'm just going to give you a really short and condensed version of it because I'd really like to have your listeners definitely look up Whitehall, New York, the A Bear Road incident, and A Bear is Abair.
Okay.
So look that up. But they go flying back into town. Now, one of the boys' older brother was a police officer in the Whitehall Police Department, and the kid who was driving, his truck was rather loud, and this police officer, he heard them coming into town. Well, they find him. The boy finds his brother, and they get out, and they're hysterical. Oh, you're not going to believe what we saw out there on Abear Road. You're not going to believe it. And he's like, "What have you guys been drinking? What have you guys been smoking?" And he could tell that truly they weren't drinking or smoking. They were beside themselves. And he's like, okay, whatever, you guys, whatever. You saw whatever. Like, fine, you don't believe us? We're going to prove it. We're going to prove it. So they get back in the truck and they take off. But before they leave town, they see one of their buddies. And they're like, hey, man, you want to go see a monster? And he's like, sure. And he gets in the truck and they take off. Now they're speeding back up into Abear Road. Now, little did they know that while they're going up there, there's another group of teenagers or younger adults that saw them speeding out and they started following them for whatever reason. Oh, I don't know. So the three go up there and they park and say, yeah, we saw it over here and this and this and this. They had the windows rolled down. One of them brought like a pistol and he had it resting on the edge of the window. And sure enough, this thing comes out right out into their headlights, and it walks up to them, like starts walking towards the truck, and then it scares the heck out of them, and they take off. And as they were taking off, this thing crossed in front of them, and then started walking like off into the woods. And one of the kid that they picked up kind of looked behind him and saw it walking, and he goes, "It was massive. It was. I've never seen anything this big walking on two legs, just effortlessly walking through the trees." So they get back down into town. They're all freaking out. The older brother, who's a police officer, he calls his dad, who happens to be a sergeant on the same police department. he gets the story from the boys, and he's like, okay. He goes, go ahead and call in, the sheriffs and the state troopers, and I'll be up there shortly. I'll be in town shortly. I'll be up there. I'll meet you up there. So they go up there, and the dad takes the youngest brother. They're all up on Abear Road, and there's a total of 3 different police agencies. There's 11 different police officers out there, and then the other boy, the boys.
Mhm.
And the dad, the youngest son, they go walking off in this field, and they kind of squat down, and they're like, what's what whereabouts did you see it over here? And he's getting ready to tell him, and they hear this yell, like this roar, scream, whatever. And they got up real quick, and they walk back to the cruisers. And now everybody's online. They're flashing their spotlights in the area, and they're searching for it. Oh, one of the state policemen, he kind of walks down the road a little ways, and he has his flashlight out, and he's flashing it. And along this part of this little hill of this field, there's a fence, and he starts flashing it along the fence line, and he sees the creature. The creature sees him, and he says pretty much steps over the fence and disappears into like little hedgerow, right? Well, there's a sheriff deputy that's further up the road, and he hears all the commotion, and so he's spotlighting the whole area, and he sees this creature come through the hedgerow, and he's so shocked by what he sees is he yells out, you know, Jesus Christ, what the F is that? What am I looking at? And he says it loud enough that everybody online down the road from him hear him, and they come running up. And this thing takes off into the woods, it makes all this ruckus. And they're like, holy crap, because it just, like ran that way. So now, they did their search, they can't find it. So they take off. The later on, when that sheriff's deputy was interviewed, he says, I didn't see anything. Nope, I didn't see nothing. So he completely denies ever seeing the creature, but everybody there says he saw the creature because they all saw it. So the next day, the older brother is logging everything into the logbook like he's supposed to be, he's being a very, good police officer. And he meets up with this gentleman. I'll call him Mr. White. I think that's what he referred to him in the story. He was another state trooper. And he met up with the older brother. I'll call the older brother Larry. I know that's not his name, but it's escaping me
Yeah,
offhand.
it just makes it easier.
So Larry meets Mr. White, and he's like, "Hey, I heard about the commotion last night." He's like, "Yeah, it's pretty crazy." Then he goes, "Yeah, I heard it from some of the other troopers that were here last night, and I'm curious. I like to see it. I like to see where the area was." And he's like, "Sure, if you want to go, we can go." Now they go at like nighttime. It's about nighttime when they go, so they go up there, and Mr. White follows Larry and points out the area. So Mr. White drives his car out into this one area, and they're talking on the radio back and forth. Larry drives up and then drives off into a field that hasn't been cut or cleared yet for any farming yet. And he's sitting out in the middle field. He said he goes out about, I think, 200 yards out into this field, and he's just sitting there. And he turns his lights off. He turns his dome light off because if something should happen, he doesn't want to be illuminated. It's going to give away his position. And he's talking with Mr. White over the radio. And Mr. White's like, so, this, and this, and this, do you copy? And he's like, yeah, it was over there and this. And, next thing you know, Mr. White comes across the radio. He's like, oh my God, what am I looking at? I'm getting out of here. And he literally takes off, and he leaves Larry over in this upper field all by himself. And so Larry just kind of said he could see Mr. White tear off out of there. So Larry's just sitting in this field, and he hears this. He hears something. He hears whoosh, 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 and he's like, "What is that noise? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh." And he says it sounded like corduroy jeans rubbing together as someone was running in them. He says that's the best way he can describe it. And he said it's getting closer. So he unholsters his service revolver, and he turns on his spotlight, and he spotlights this monster, this Sasquatch. It's not far from him. This thing was running up towards him. And when this thing gets hit by the spotlight, it yells out this yell. He says its eyes were as big as saucers. It lets out this yell, covers his eyes, turns around, and just in a matter of seconds is across the field, and in the woods. And when he does, he yells out before. So he yells in like, I don't know, protest, whatever, how dare you be in my area or whatever. And so Larry, he gets in his cruiser and he leaves. He goes back into town. Now, he had noted his logbook. There were so many entries of everything that had happened the night before, and now he's entering in this night, right? So as time goes on, he gets pulled in by like the higher ups, probably the mayor, probably city council, probably the chief of police, and he's pretty much told, you didn't see anything, you didn't hear anything, you didn't counter anything. If you truly love your job in this department, you didn't see anything. And then his dad, who's a sergeant, gets pulled in and is pretty much told the same thing. They're both threatened. You keep your mouth shut, or you're going to lose your jobs.
What do you think that is?
Because people know things, man. I'm gonna tell you that. I believe people know things. So he goes and he's like, it's all in the logbook. Anybody, it's gonna be made available. I'm gonna whatever. Well, this logbook that he wrote everything in turned up missing. Not the pages, the entire logbook is gone. And to this day, the logbook has never been found. So I want to. The time frame escapes me again. I have this all written down when I presented it on one of my live streams. But there's a little time that passed, and he goes into this diner in town that a lot of law enforcement officers visit. So he starts going into the diner, and he goes into this back room where primarily mostly law enforcement will sit, and he bumps into good old Mr. White. And he looks at him, he was like, "Bro, you left me out there. Why would you leave me out there? What did you see? What exactly did you see?" And I'll be damned if Mr. White didn't look at Larry in the face and go, I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything at all." And with that being said, he stands up and he leaves. And Larry said it was the last time he ever saw Mr. White, ever.
Wow, that's wild.
It is one of my favorite encounter stories. And then, of course, if you really want to get into it, look at the Legend of Boggy Creek, the Falk Monster. You can look into that story. That's a pretty crazy story. If you want to hear a Dogman story, you look at the Beast of Bray Road. That's pretty incredible. Look up encounters, sightings of the Beast of Bray Road. Real quick one. There's a girl. She's a young woman. She's driving home. She got her pickup truck, and she's driving, and she thought she hit something. Like she saw something in the road. I think she said she thought she hit it. So she stopped her truck and got out and was walking towards the back of her truck when she sees this massive, for lack of a better term, a werewolf running at her.
Jesus.
And she runs to her truck. So this thing's probably 50, 60 feet, or yeah, meters, whatever, from her. She's only, a couple of feet from the from the cab of her truck. She jumps in and takes off, and she's speeding away. She can hear the nails on this thing scraping on the concrete, on the pavement as it's racing towards her truck. And she feels it grab a hold of her tailgate, but couldn't keep a grip on it because she was going so fast.
Wow, that's wild.
It is. There's a website called Dogman Encounters, and it's a guest that I had on. His name's Vic Cundiff. It's also look up YouTube channel Dogman Encounters, and you want to hear some absolutely amazing and frightening encounters. Absolutely, there's amazing stories on there. And then one real quick one. This is on my buddy Josh Smith's channel called Mysteries Unknown. He interviewed a person when he was 12 years old. He was out hunting, and he had a single shot shotgun. And he's walking through the woods. He sees what he thinks is a fox. So he aims, and he hears in his head, "Don't." What the whole phrase was going to be was, "Don't shoot me." But he fired after the word "don't" and shot this thing. And this thing comes out of the woods and is now having this mental conversation with him, like, "Why did you shoot me? I told you not to shoot me." And the boy, he says, as a boy, I remember in my mind pretty much just saying, "You scared me." And the saying goes, "Yeah, because that's what I like to do." And he goes, "I'm not going to forget this. You're going to pay for it." And it
What
ran
the
off.
fuck?
Yeah. So through the rest of his life, up into adulthood, this thing would follow him around. He would see it in different parts of the, if he moved to California, he would see it in California. If he lived in West Virginia, he'd see it in West Virginia. And the final conversation that he had with this thing was he saw it. And if I can't remember, it's been such a long time since I heard the whole story. I think the guy asked him, "Why are you following me?" And he goes, "Because of what you did to me all those years ago. And I'm going to let you know when I'm given the okay, I'm going to kill you first." And that's what
What the fuck?
exactly that, and you could see it on this guy's face. He's not making the story up. You can see the fear in his face. That's when he said, "I gave my life to the Lord. I started praying," and he goes, "That's pretty much when it stopped. When it stopped following me." I think there's an evil backing with these dogman creatures. So,
So he shot a demon and it fucking haunted him?
well, I wouldn't say it's a demon, but it's funny because people who've had encounters with dogmen, they say they tend to follow you home, or if you've done something wrong against them, you've like challenged them, or you've shot at them or shot them, they don't remember. I mean, they don't forget, and they'll do what it takes to make sure that you know they're still there, and that they'll come for you.
That's wild. I wonder what it means by when I get the okay.
Exactly.
Like, that
That's
sounds like alien shit.
Yeah, yeah. It's crazy.
So, do you think there's any common misconceptions people have about fans of cryptids and Bigfoot and stuff?
Oh, you think what do people think about us?
Yeah, any common misconceptions people might have, like generalizations that aren't totally accurate.
Um, we're stupid. We're rednecks. We're uneducated. Things like that. I will tell you, one person's had some amazing encounters with Bigfoot. Is he goes by the name of Kumbo Baker, and yeah, he used to work for NASA. And I'm not talking. He didn't empty garbage cans and stuff. No, he was an engineer. There's some very intelligent people in this community that have had encounters with these. There's people who've been mayors. There's people who've been, law enforcement officers, military, officers. Myself, I was Air Force security police officer. I had what I believe is a sighting. I didn't get a really super clear look because it was dark. All I saw was a mass, while I was stationed at Fort Dix, New Jersey, going through some training. There's tons and tons of encounters and sightings of these things, and people think that we're stupid, or we're making things up, or. So before you judge a book by its cover, maybe you should open it up and read it a little bit before pass your judgment or whatever you want on the people, because there's some very extremely intelligent people in this community that have seen the same thing as you know Billy Bob coming out of the old shotgun shack up in the woods. He's seen the exact same thing. So,
Yeah, definitely. And like, yeah, when you had mentioned like neither of the Patterson or Gimlin had gone back on their word, I Googled it, and the first thing that comes up is yeah, they both stayed true. And that it was conspiracy theories and like people later saying that they went back on it and stuff, but it never actually happened. So like
mm-mm.
you got to look at both sides. You can't just like listen, because like I'm pretty sure I heard that on like Joe Rogan or something.
Yeah.
So don't do what I did and just hear something on Joe Rogan or some other podcast and assume that that's the fact. Because I mean, a quick Google search showed clearly that that was not the case.
Yep. Well, and the thing is that I think it was Roger Patterson or Bob Gimlin, one of them. They gave the original film away for like dirt cheap, like 5-10 bucks, something like that, because they didn't want what was coming along with it.
Hmm.
Their family was being verbally attacked. They were being verbally attacked. They were being threatened by all these people who didn't know anything, and they thought, "Oh, you're a liar. You're making this up. You set this whole thing up." And there's a whole another mysterious backstory as to why they were up there, but I've never really heard it 100% what it was. But I will tell you that Bob Gimlin risked his life to protect a print that they had casted because it was raining. And once that stuff gets heavily rained on, your print is going to be gone. This guy went
Hmm.
through, resaddled the horse, went back up into the area where they found the print, and was cutting off, pine branches and ripping off bark and putting them over and keeping it completely covered, and then going back during a storm. You know, these guys were in an area where it would be perfectly great weather one minute and the torrential downpour the next minute. And that's pretty much what happened because the river was rising that they were across, and they had to get out of there before their truck would have been swept away. It was an extraordinary group of circumstances that, we have. I have a copy of the Patterson Gimlin. Patty, they called her name's Patty. I have a copy of her print.
That's so
Right here,
cool.
right here in my office. I have a copy of frame, I think it's 253, which is that iconic picture. You see all the wood debris that's right there in the stream, and then you see Patty on the other side of that wood debris walking and kind of turning at the torso, looking back at Roger Patterson as he's shooting this film. I have a high definition, you know, 20 by 30 poster of that I just had
That's so
printed up,
cool.
you know? So, I mean, you've got guys like MK Davis. MK Davis is very well known with his work with the Patterson Gimlin film because he enhanced it, and he was getting all the stuff that he was using was a first generation copy because a lot of the things that people see, I just want to clear this up. When you what we're looking at, if you see someone post something on YouTube or on other social media of this Patterson Gimlin film, the chances of you seeing like a fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, 12th generation copy of the original, that's pretty much what you're seeing.
Hmm.
Now, Russell Accord, who was Expedition Bigfoot, that show, he was at this Bigfoot conference that I was at, the Minnesota Bigfoot conference, just this weekend. And he goes, I've watched the very first copy of the original film. I watched it. I had it made into a 4K, ultra 4K, whatever, frame by frame. Then I've seen the first copy of the first copy. So it's now a second generation copy. And he goes, the amount of detail, and he did the same thing as he did with the first one. The amount of detail that you lose from a copy is astronomical. Something that was there in the original film is not going to be there in the first copy.
Hmm.
Something that's in the first copy is not going to be there in the second copy, and keep going down. You're going to completely start losing small detail. And what MK Davis was able to do was enhance stuff there, was able to zoom in on Patty's face and give us a clear picture of what her face actually looked like. So, there's a lot of intelligent people out in this community that are here to preserve that film and let people know that it's not a hoax.
That's so cool. So, was it your personal experiences or something else that caused you to want to start your podcast?
It was pretty much my personal experiences. Now, I mentioned it earlier, Mysteries Unknown. The first podcast I had ever been on was on Sasquatch Chronicles with Wes Germer. I heard an episode of his, I heard his email address, and I go, I think it's time that I talk to somebody about this. And I did. And from there, I've been on the Confessionals with Tony Merkel, talking about some of my paranormal encounters that I've had. Sasquatch Odyssey. Then I was on Mysteries Unknown, which is the host is pretty much like my brother now. We're brothers from another mother, pretty much. We're super close.
That's awesome.
I was a co-host on his show for a while, and I started my own. I started one called The Paranormal Narrative. It was all about the paranormal, ghosts, that type of stuff. I stopped doing that. Just was getting a lot of unwanted, pretty weird and odd attention. I didn't want it. Didn't want anything manifesting in my house. Didn't want my family to be affected by anything. So I just deleted everything. And then I started the Cryptid Podcast. I just wanted to bring something to people. Not that it's not out there already, because Josh's channel is just like that. We provide a safe place for people to come and share their encounters with. There's so many people out there that have had amazing encounters that will never tell anybody because they're afraid of ridicule and what the general public or what their little community they live in, what will they think of them. Even though other people in that same community may have the exact same encounter or close to it, they're afraid to come forward. I try to provide a very safe environment for people to come and share their eyewitness encounters with us, whether it be an actual sighting of something walking across their field, or something throwing a rock at them while they're camping, or walking out off your back porch to go feed your chickens and you find some massive footprints along the way. I just want people to know they can come to the Cryptid Podcast, share their encounters, and be free of ridicule. I'm not out to disprove anybody. I believe everybody until you give me a reason not to believe you, because I know what my encounters were. I know what I saw. I know what I heard. I know what I smelled. I can't say you did not see, hear, or smell the same thing because I wasn't there. So,
That makes sense. It's always good to give people the benefit of the doubt.
oh, for sure.
So, before we get out of here, why don't you let my listeners know where they can find you and your show?
Sure. You guys, you can find me on YouTube. All you got to do is look up the Cryptid Podcast, and I'll send Brody a link to that so he can put it in the description. And then
Yeah.
also Spotify. I'm on Spotify as
Awesome.
well.
Yeah, I'll make sure I throw everything in the episode description there. And you should hit up my buddies at Alien Theorist Theorizing. They've done a few cryptid episodes and other stuff. They'd probably be great to get in touch with and possibly go on their show and talk about some of your experiences and stuff.
Yeah, send me their information, and I'll definitely look it up and then pass my information off to them as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they're good friends of the show. Always supportive and giving feedback and advice. Anyways, thanks a lot for listening, everyone. I hope you guys go check out Dano and the Cryptid Podcast. And remember to stay deadly.
Fandoms here, we share the love.
Thank you, you wonderful person, for listening to Fandoms. If you enjoyed this, check out another Fancast Studio show like Hey Anime or Chaos Crucible. Also, if you'd like to be a guest, hit us up at pod.fandoms@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on any of our social medias. Links are in the description below. Thanks a lot for listening. Bye.